Welcome to Abundance Recoded. Today I have a pondering moment, something that I have been thinking about probably for the last couple of days, but it really hit me yesterday as I thought about coming back to my regular schedule, seeing clients, doing group calls after having 4 days off. And that is, am I living wildly alive? And what does that actually mean? I can feel it within me that I am not. There's a sense of freedom to that I can't say I have. I had some semblance of that over the last 4 days, which I'm sure is bringing this to light. Because we so easily go through our motions every day. We wake up on Monday and we do XYZ and then Tuesday, Wednesday, throughout the week. And we get stuck in this rhythm that really isn't who we are. In this time period that we're in, at the end of July, moving into Lionsgate, there's this call of what is living? What does it mean to live wildly alive? For me, it is about freedom of time, money, to do whatever I want, when I want, without restriction around money or time or resources, whatever it is. And to have had some semblance of that over the last 4 days has really gotten me wow, I really am not living wildly alive. And I'll be honest, I even struggle with what that means. What does it mean to live wildly alive? I know there's a spontaneity to it that I surely don't have most of the time. And I think many people also don't live spontaneously. We live a very scheduled life, a expected life, a doing life. We move through what we believe the world expects of us, or our family, or our job. And in that, we're not really living. We're existing. And there's a big difference between existing and living. And this energy that we're moving into with the second half of the year, into this Lionsgate and into the second half of 2026, we're being asked to examine just that question. Do you want to exist or live? Are you choosing to just go through the motions, meet all the expectations that think will get you something, this idea of being alive, and just exist in the narrative that has been told to you since you were small about what the world expects of you, so that you just exist instead of live? In a moment, I'm going to channel Sapphire, but I wanted to share a little bit about what my thoughts are around this and why I feel like today is the day that this gets answered. At least for you to start thinking about it. Where am I, or where are you just existing in life instead of living? Because you can't change it if you don't see it. And yesterday it hit me. I was like, oh man, I am just in this existing energy more than I want to be. There's going to be some times when that's still required, when you need to do things that maybe aren't this full expression of living, like I don't know, cleaning, if that isn't something that you enjoy, or maybe it's going grocery shopping because it's not something that you enjoy. There's going to be those moments when you do things that are like existing, but because you're living, most of the time, it's not going to matter. And the question for this week really is, one, What does living wildly mean for you? It's going to be different for every person, and there's not one right or wrong answer. It can be anything. But this week, ask us, or wherever you listen to this is the right time, what does living wildly mean? Without conditions, without restraints, without resistance, what would you be doing if you were living wildly? And this week asks us to be honest about that to ourselves. You can only see beyond your limitations if you allow yourself to see what it is you truly want. You can't see where you're only existing if you won't let yourself dream or envision a life where you are wildly alive. You don't have to do anything with that. It's just, can you even define it? Because, like I said, I had that question yesterday, and I couldn't even define it. Like, I was like, what does that mean? Like, it's an idea, but it didn't feel real. It was like, oh, yeah. I know that's what my soul wants, to live this wildly alive, abundant, free life. But my human was really struggling with, like, what does that mean? What does that look like? And is it really possible? And I know it is possible because my soul is pushing or gently nudging me to see where I'm out of order there. Where I am still allowing myself to just exist instead of live. So this morning as I record this, it's an analyzation of where that is, where I'm just choosing to exist versus live. And then beyond that is what needs to shift so that you can live more in that way that being wildly alive would look like to you. How do you bring more of that into your everyday life so that eventually you don't have to do anything from an existing point of view? You didn't come here to just exist, to just go through the motions, to just hope and plan for a future that may or may not come. You came here to live. And I know this has come up on other podcasts that I've done over the last couple of weeks. But this feels different. This is like, listen, like we need to put they're saying the money, what is that phrase? Something like money, put your money where your mouth is, or money where your, something like that. It's like, stop saying you're going to do it and freaking do it. Choose to live, or just choose to define. Because again, I didn't, and I don't know if I really truly even do in this moment, understand what it means to be wildly alive. And just choose to define it. And know that it might bring up some sadness, maybe some resentment, grief, or maybe even anger, and realizing that however many years you've had in this life, that you have been more in the energy of existing than in the energy of being wildly alive. And I think the biggest way is to examine, or not examine, but to think about how you lived when you were a child, before maybe 8 or 7. Even regardless of what your environment was when you were living at that age, there was still a part of you that knew how to have moments of being wildly alive. You Could be having just an imaginary story in your head that nobody heard. But it was still in this energy of the now moment, right? Or even making up stories about it being better the next day than it was today is, in essence, this energy of not just existing. And with the work I've done with clients over the years, I know many children did just exist because that was the only way they could stay safe, or they felt safe just existing. And that became their norm. And of course, that has extended into adulthood. But existing is taught to us. And whether you had a good childhood or a bad childhood, many of us are running this programming of just existing instead of choosing to live wildly alive in every moment, every day. But first, to do that, you have to define it. Without a target, how do you even get there? Like, you have an idea of what that is. Yes, you have to dream it into existence, but like first you have to define it. And not in like goals and stuff, but like, what does that look like? If you were expected of nothing today, what would you do? And if rest is the first word that comes out of your mouth, that is fine. Because existing is exhausting. Just existing is tiring. So you may well feel you just need to rest. And when you are wildly alive, you get to have days where you just rest because you feel like it. Maybe that's sleeping all day. Maybe that's binge watching something on the TV. Maybe that's sitting by a pool and having a drink. The definition of what that looks like is up to you. But being wildly alive, you get to choose whatever that looks like. But I want you to just feel into the energy of the idea of having a day when you're not just existing. Because it is imperative for us as we move into the next, not just the next 6 months, but into the coming years, that we break our habit of just existing and remember how to live wildly based on our soul's desires and purpose, and to no longer settle for existing, just making do, just allowing our conditions to say, yep, that's the way life is, I just have to do it. That's existing. And time for that changeover to remember, or maybe for the first time, even think about what it means to live wildly, is the first seed in this changeover that we are being asked to examine within each of us. So let me channel Sapphire and see what they have to say about this. Yeah, let's do that. Let's let Sapphire through and see their added stuff to this. Welcome, dear ones. Welcome back to this podcast, this new beautiful day that you get to live once again, breathing, expressing, being you, experiencing life. We just want to start this with you just taking a breath for a moment, feeling the breath of life flowing through you before we dig into this oh so delicious topic. With each breath, allowing your body to relax, your mind to relax as much as it can. Those thoughts are not you. Just let them drift. Allowing you to come into this now moment. And now, we want you to really feel into your body the aliveness that's there. Not your weight, not your schedule, not your friends, your partner, your wants or desires. The aliveness that is there, regardless of what is happening outside of you, what needs to be done, just the aliveness that's flowing through every vein in your body, with every beat of your heart, with every breath you take. Feel the aliveness in that breath, the connection to your body, always moving, always expressing life. Existing and living wildly abundant is such a wonderful topic because humans have belittled themselves, put them in a corner, boxed themselves in, imprisoned themselves to a point where existing is all they can do every day, one foot in front of the other, just get it over with energy. Just get the week over, just get the day over, just get the tour over. Just one foot in front of the other, hoping that somewhere, some way, something will change, that something will be different. But you've gotten to the point that you don't even know what different is. You just know that the way you're living now is not the way you want to be. And we're happy that some of you have recognized that, even though it comes with sadness, frustration, anger. It's not a bad sign that you feel that. It means that you're out of alignment with your truth. The remembrance of how life is really supposed to be. In essence, it's your soul knocking at the door, asking if you're ready to finally live wildly like you're supposed to. But the world weighs heavy on you with its expectations, its conditions, what you have to do, what you need to do to survive, to be a good citizen, to matter, to feel like you're in control. And that's one of the biggest problems with this idea of existing versus being wildly abundant. When you're wildly abundant, you throw caution to the wind. Control, it becomes a 4-letter word. It becomes something that you know you don't need because you fully create your reality. It's only in this idea that you need to control that you get into trouble with just existing. Because when you are trying to control every breath, every moment, every outcome, every result, every hope, every dream, you get into the energy of expecting, which then leads to this energy of existing. You cannot live wildly abundant and be trapped by your own expectations or others, or pining for a result, an outcome that you feel will give you permission to finally have the life that you feel called to live. None of that is true. That is what you have watched others do around you, your parents, siblings in their family, people on the TV. This is what you believe life is supposed to be. That you're just supposed to live by other people's expectations of you, and then the expectations you create for yourself, and you get into this energy of just existing. Every day is just about moving through the time, step over step, scheduling yourself to death so that you are distracted from the pain, from the uncomfortableness, from the sadness, the grief, and the anger underneath, because you don't feel like you're living the life that you actually are meant for. Planning to do more just takes you away from you being able to find what it is actually to live fully, lively, wildly. A wild life is not scheduled. It's spontaneous. It doesn't mean that you don't have vacations planned or days out planned or, let's say, doctor appointments planned. But the rest of it should be spontaneous. But that requires you to let go of control. And the controlling is what causes this day after day repeated groundhog energy, where you become just in this void of existing, trying to meet other people's expectations and expectations you have on yourself. Living wildly happens now, not someday, now. But that means that you have to look at where you have such a tight grip on life, on expectations, on doing, controlling, that you are not letting yourself even remember or dream about living wildly, and whatever that looks like. Maybe some of you do dream about that life where you are living wildly abundant. But nothing's changing because every day you just go into the same habits, the same behaviors, the same distractions, so that you never break the cycle. You just end up in existing, and you don't even know you're there. You don't recognize that the thoughts that you're having, the actions you're taking, the autopilot is just causing you to exist. That life of wildly being alive can start today. It's not someday in the future, it's now. But because you feel this incessant need to control every outcome, every result, every goal where you feel you have to do a zillion steps to get there, you're not letting yourself live wildly. You're just existing. And control is the nemesis of living wildly abundant. You cannot control life living wildly abundant. But control has become a habit, a safety. It doesn't feel safe for many of you to live an uncontrolled life. Isn't that in essence what a wildly life would be? Living without having to know the results, the steps. Just doing it anyway. And know that by living wildly alive, wildly abundant comes, wildly joyful comes, wildly successful comes, because you're not trying to control the outcome. Or you're trying to control the plan to get there. Instead of releasing the reins and letting life unfold the way it's supposed to. Instead of seeing the bad things that happen to you, quote, quote, bad things happen to you on a daily basis, instead of it being a nuisance, to maybe seeing it as a way of your soul saying, no, this way. Seeing it as a way to avoid more trouble. Seeing it as a way to change path, to see something differently. But doing that triggers this energy of control. This need to have the outcome you want, the way you want it. And that comes with all of the rules around conditioning, expectations, yours and others. So much so you've gotten yourself into this little itty bitty prison or genie lamp, if you want to think of Aladdin, that you desperately want out of and are desperately looking for someone to help you out. But you've always had the key. It means that you have to choose to live life differently. Choose to change your rules. Choose to throw caution to the wind sometimes. Choose to see things differently. Choose to rise above the occasion. Choose to allow yourself to just be in the moment. To be with your breath. To choose to not overschedule everything. Choose to not feel like you have to get everything done to feel like you're worthy or valued. Choose to break from the societal patterns, the beliefs that tell you that this has to happen before this can happen. And choose to believe that it happens now because you say so. That desire in you to live life differently when you have the money, the success, the joy, doesn't have to wait, and it's not supposed to. When you are waiting for all that to come in some future date, you just get stuck in existing, pining for that day when you finally get to live that life of joy that lifts your heart and spirit. You wake up every morning with so much aliveness, so much excitement for the day, and that's normal every day. That's what it feels like to live wildly alive. To wake up in the morning, stretch, with a giant smile on your face, knowing that today is going to be the best day ever. However it unfolds, it's the right way. Where many of you would more relate with waking up in the morning with this dread, this sadness, this anxiousness and stress before you've even gotten out of the bed. And that is a sign that you are existing instead of living. It's sad to watch from this side to see so many humans stuck in existing, wanting things to change, but not doing the things that would allow it to change. And that change starts with you. There's nothing outside of you that needs to change. It is just you choosing differently. Just choosing to change the story in the morning when you wake up with that dread and say, no, I'm not choosing to just go through the motions today, step through step or existing. I'm choosing to live wildly today, and whatever that is and how life expresses to me is right, and I choose to make the most of it. And that today is going to be the best day ever because you say so. Just that little choice in the morning when you wake up, and the thoughts that go through your head and the things you tell yourself about the day, the dread, the feelings of sadness, the feeling of the hamster wheel. Humans have been led that they just have to accept that that's the way life is, and that's just the facts of life, but it's not. You get to choose differently. Every morning when you wake up, there's a choice point. Do I live the dreaded life? The expected, just existing life? Or am I choosing to live the day full out, fully expressed, letting it unfold the way it's supposed to, knowing that the more I do it, the easier it will get? And letting life be magical, be expressive and joyful. There's always things around you to be the joyful. It could just be the sun on your face. But your world has told you that joy can only come from big things. or moments in time, birthdays, anniversaries, parties, or joy only exists once you've accomplished some large goal. But that is in essence a story and very much fits into this societal system of people or humans just existing. Because when you're just existing, you're not challenging the norms, you're not pushing other people's boundaries because you dare to live the way you feel you're supposed to. You aren't fitting into other people's rules. You aren't challenging the narrative. You aren't being anything but a good citizen. A good citizen just exists. He or she or them does not live wildly. Because that would go away from all the systems that have been created on humans just existing. This week, we will go deeper into this as the days go by in this podcast this week. Because it's important right now in this tipping point, in the energy that you're in, to choose a different way forward. A way for you to embrace living wildly now. And remembering that in every moment you have that choice. Will you get it perfectly every day? Will you fall into just existing? Yep. Because it's a deeply ingrained habit. And deeply ingrained habits can take time to break. But it requires you to start to recognize where you are just choosing to exist because you don't feel like you have a choice. And where you're choosing to live wildly. And today, just recognize it. If you can't shift it just yet, that's okay. Just recognize it. Feel the sadness, the grief, the resentment, anger. It's normal. Let yourself feel it in healthy ways. Try not to distract yourself from it because distraction just puts you into energy of just existing, which this week we would like to help you break or to come to terms with so that your life can unfold in this magical, easy, flowy way that you all want. But to do that, you have to break the energy of just existing, just going through the motions day after day. So take that, and we will talk soon. Bye for now.